Whatever you have to do. However long it takes. Promise me you'll find your way home. Furiosa. Give me this promise.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
Furiosa!
The darkest of angels. The question is, do you have it in you to make it epic?
Hey everybody, this is Jake Jacobs. I'm here with my partner in crime, Kurt, and this is going to be an extra special edition of the making of Turbo Pit Fighter. We're going to be doing a Furiosa spoiler episode, so buckle in. If you're alive and you have a pulse, you've seen all the ads for the new Furiosa. A Mad Max Saga, and this is the prequel to the last Mad Max movie that came out called Fury Road, and this would be the fourth Mad Max movie. You had Mad Max, you had Road Warrior, you had Thunderdome, then you had Fury Road, and now Furiosa, and We're Kurt and I are going to talk about it. We both recently saw it. Lots of spoilers, so be advised. But Kurt, I don't know about you, but Road Warrior.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I do know.
You know about me. We talk about this movie
right
100 times. We nonstop talk about this movie, and we have been very vocal about wanting to see this movie. And we both got to see it, and we haven't shut up about it. So we figured we'll put it on tape. We'll put it on tape.
2020. Yeah, May 2024 it came out, and long awaited, years long.
Happy
awaited.
birthday, John! That's my best friend's birthday.
Yeah, they stay kind of like in the world of the Fury Road characters with these kind of like complexes, or I forget what they call them, but they're refuges. And there was Immortan Joe, who has this whole like army of these bald-headed young men and war boys, right? Which is so cool. And and then you ask, where are the women? Well, he's got these women that are just like this harem of young women. And at one point, Furiosa was introduced into the harem, and she was like, "Oh no." Um, but this was introduced in the last movie where Furiosa was played by um,
Charlize Theron.
a very Charlize Theron with a very very close cut hairdo and a
Bald.
mechanical arm, right?
Bald. Yeah,
Bald, man,
yeah.
basically buzz cut.
Bald.
And
Yeah, bald, baby. Bald is
and
beautiful, man.
and that was really exciting. Now when's the last time you saw Fury Road again? Because I only saw it the
I
one
saw
time.
it. No lie. I watched it the night before I saw the movie. So my
Right,
best friend's
perfect,
birthday is May 21st. Happy birthday, Johnny. So I totally locked him in on that. Got him to come down out of Philly and slum it with me here in Wilmington. And sat down the night before and was like, what am I going to watch tonight? I was in that place and I was like, duh. Why don't you watch Fury Road? Because you haven't watched it like for the 8th time yet. So I did. And it was the biggest mistake I made because I couldn't sleep all night. I was like a teenager waiting for Santa Claus to show up. I was biting my nails all the way up till 11:20. That's when we got a first showing right there. And absolutely seamless. I'll put it to you that way. Answer your question.
Right. I mean, even at the end of Furiosa, they show clips. I mean, when's the last time you saw that? At the end of Furiosa, they're showing you clips of Fury Road, right? So, I mean, you don't see too many prequels that, edit in clips of the thing that they're prequeling, but they did that here. So they really develop the character of Furiosa. They take her from when she was about, I don't know, like 8 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
And so they establish that she's from this kind of like secret society of people who have windmills, and they grow fruit and plants, and they have peach trees, which is a really big deal. And they're in this hidden away oasis. This is long after the world is destroyed. They also have some like audio clips of news reports as the world is going downhill, right? And
The
maybe even some
same
video.
ones they've been using. It's the same one they've been using since the beginning. Since
Right.
it's the same clips that were used in Mad Max, and they've kind of I think the reboot, because in Fury Road it's the same one. So it's just this very sparse, no detail, bleak demise of civilization to just kind of put you right at the edge, and then of course they just push you right off into.
And they don't get into why. They don't get into the how, right?
Nah, not necessary. Yeah. Now, do you know that Mad Max was originally supposed to be an ambulance driver?
I know it from you.
That's right.
You
So
told me that.
I think it's such an interesting way, and there's a whole documentary on YouTube. You can go and find that talks about this. It's more like an essay, 18, 20 minutes or what have you. I don't even know if I could find it again to put the link below. But if you're really into Mad Max, just start watching stuff. It'll eventually come up. But it was original. George Miller was a doctor. He was training to be a doctor, and so I think he was doing his like ER stint, and but he was always really into filmmaking and cars, and so him and his friends wanted to do something with cars and chase scenes and ambulances, and he just started putting this whole thing together. And it started evolving, and I'm totally like paraphrasing and burning this down into just some little bite-sized stuff. But it starts moving before you get Mel Gibson. Yes, before they shoot all the stuff. As a matter of fact, when they're chasing the toe cutter and he hits the van, and the van spins, that's actually footage prior to it becoming a post-apocalyptic film. And him and the guys were hanging out, and George was thinking, like, we really got something here, but it doesn't cohesively work to have this guy like an ambulance driver or, like that. We need, and it just said, he said, it came into his head. He said, oh, wow, I'll do like a cop. So then it just leaps into cop. And then is the late 70s, and every country in the world was facing increasing gas prices. And there was just this very tense, what's going to happen next in society and the world. And he leaned into it, but he did not want it to be over the top. There was no necessity of like the Russians nuked the Chinese and the Chinese nuked the Indian, and the Americans had to start, it had nothing to do. It was just really it was dialing in to what's always there in our society, which is that anxiety of what's going to happen next.
And the shortage of fuel is a really big theme. I mean, like I said many times, he zeroes in on this, even to the exclusion of everything else. Like, you might say, well, why that? Why not like milk and medicine and other things?
Toilet paper.
Right. So, it was a very interesting movie when it first came out at the time. It's all about the gasoline,
Gasoline.
And right. And, you had these, when you get from Mad Max to Road Warrior, I don't even know if I even saw Mad Max before I saw Road Warrior. I might have went backwards. I remember a long time ago, there was a cable channel called Uptown, and I saw Mad Max with my brother late at night on the Uptown channel, which was like kind of like, they had some offbeat movies and indie movies. That was when I first saw Mad Max. I haven't seen Mad Max in a long time.
I've seen it at least, I have to say, I've seen it at least like 25 times. And I saw it, on television on an afternoon, like just, flipping through the 3 channels that we had. And I'll say this too, though. When I went to art school, my second roommate was a film minor. So he was taking all these courses in film, and the homeworks were based on movies, and some were things that he had to watch, but of course he would do analysis of movies. So there's like a dozen movies I've watched literally like a dozen times just within a year, because it was his homework and it was just playing in our living room. And that was one of them. And it is just a timeless movie, though. And I think that's the other element in the success that George Miller has with this world building that he's gotten himself into, where you really just don't care about anything other than being in this fantastic place and time and trying to survive it.
Well, there's a lot of themes that come up. Survival is a big one. In the Furiosa movie, tell me if you agree with this, but it seems like the really big theme is coming after resources that other people have created.
What?
Right? Remember when they talk about their... Well, all right. So let's bring people through the first couple of sequences. You have Furiosa is just like looking for peaches with her sister. They find that some motorcycle guys have come upon their hidden enclave, and Furiosa knows that that's really bad, so she immediately starts trying to sabotage their bikes. She's cutting the fuel lines. She's sneaking around, and she abandons her little companion, her little sister or whoever, and she gets caught. And they immediately put her on one of these bikes and start, speeding away. And she blows this whistle that alerts her mom and other people that she's in danger. And her mom then gets on one of these bikes, and she has a rifle, and she makes this really valiant effort to come after Furiosa. But the fate of her mom ends up being, a really pivotal, plot point, because her mom is all right. So basically, these guys see that, wow, there's a place here of trees and life and growing and abundance, right? They say abundance. What's there? Abundance. There's abundance there. And so they want to go back to where there's this roving band of nomadic hijacking, marauding, violent thieves, led by the Chris Hemsworth character. What was his name? What was the character's name?
Shit.
If you know, okay. So we'll just call him the Chris Hemsworth with a prosthetic nose. They uglied him up. But so these guys are going. They're headed back, and they have little young Furiosa, kind of like just tied up on the back of a motorcycle, and they're heading through the desert. The mom is
Dr. Dementis.
Oh, that's his name, Dr. Dementis. Okay. So the mom is trailing them, and she's picking them off one by one with her sniper rifle. And
let me just stop you. Let me just stop you there. Just stop, because I want to go back to what you just you have proposed, and it's about what did you say you thought the movie was about?
Well, I thought the theme for
resources.
The theme for this one is the marauding band of berserkers going after resources that were developed by other people. They just want to.
No, I disagree. So, because and I'm not saying you're wrong or I'm right or the opposite, but post-apocalyptic movies, the key to surviving is having resources. But then I think one of the things is the access to resources.
Well,
it's not a control. Control thing is going to be obviously what we high class apes do when it comes to resources. Just look at our society now. How much does it cost to get a bottle of water nowadays? But I don't really see that being like the guts of it. It's just like it's like the next layer on top of what happened. How did everybody get there? Not that important, because I think with Furiosa, her journey is a very cliche one, hero's journey kind of thing. But I think the mapping of how that world has to function in order for somebody or somebody's to survive in it is pretty evident. But it's obvious that where Furiosa comes from, they don't want anything to do with the outside world.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They've created a sustainable living environment. But they don't want to share it. They don't want to share it.
Well,
of course not, because the world is full of roving maniacs and murderers.
It's not very nice. It's not very nice.
So, so they're just trying to protect. They're just trying to protect what they have. So there's some great analogs there to the way nations sometimes look out for their own, as opposed to
sometimes.
yeah, all the time. Okay, all the time. There's a great
Because
metaphor there.
Dr. Dementis, and by the way, I don't care for this character at all. I mean, you could have put anybody in his spot. He is nothing of value to me in this whole thing, but he is a stooge. He is the fly in the ointment. When he takes Bullet Town or whatever it is. He can't hold it. He invites all these, I think Gastown, and he can't hold it because all the biker gangs he brought in are basically just they're not being led.
Yeah, it
by
was
somebody with charisma. Oh yeah, he's a complete moron.
Well, it was that was a plot point where they showed that he was kind of chaotic, and his leadership was chaotic, and he would just kill people that mess with him, but meanwhile he was working with savages and and disorganized people, and there was just a lot of mayhem going on. You're talking about later on when he actually strikes a deal with Immortan Joe, but you have a good point that some of the stuff is pretty cliche, or predictable, I might say. Furiosa is kidnapped by these guys. The mother is able to kill all of them one by one, except for the last one, who's just about to make it into the confines of this crazy this crazy group of brigands led by Dr. Dementis, and what happens? She shoots him in the mouth or something. He's unable to talk.
This.
Yeah,
what?
Well, for some reason the guy's unable to talk, and he
I think cuts his tongue out or something like that. I can't remember.
No, well, that was when Furiosa rigged up his bike with a chain that like flipped out and prevents him from being able to talk. And so they bring him up. We're going to talk to Dr. Dementis. I want to talk to him myself. And then the guy loses his ability to speak because Furiosa is still, very resourceful, and she messes up his bike so that once he starts riding, he gets injured and his mouth gets ruined. So the other people grab the girl and they bring him up, and they said, this girl is from an oasis, a place of abundance. I saw it with my own eyes. And so now they want to get from the girl where the location is so they can start riding. And they want it, they want to take it all to themselves. They want to kill everybody, take everything they got. I think so.
I don't think so. Once again, I disagree. I disagree with you. Once again, I do not believe that is the rationale of these individuals that become overlords. I think the thing, like I always want to call him Lord Humongous, but because he's the template that they're templating off of again and again.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're running a mafia, a school, a country. Good leadership is very hard to come by, because good leadership has got to have a vision, and it's got to be able to keep people moving, whether it's manipulative or however you want to categorize it, in a way that pushes people into a space where they feel safe and they want things to stay that way and be provided for. Once again, you bring the war boys in. These guys are berserker, like Valhalla types that are given like a silver nitrous spray, which is used for them because it's set as an example by Immortan Joe, where they will die for him. which is
Right.
very close to Thulsa Doom in Conan the Barbarian, when they're talking about the riddle of steel, and he goes, you know what's more powerful than Steel Boy? And he goes, I'll show you. And he says, see that girl up there? He says, come to me, my dear, come to me. And the girl reaches her hand out, and she jumps, and then lands and dies, right? And he goes, that's power. That's the truth about this existence.
And they did the same thing with one of the War Boys.
Correct. Because like I said,
right.
there is nothing new coming in the way of story dimension that I can actually toot as like big power. But the way George tells this story, you have no other choice but to be completely immersed in it and have to deal with it yourself.
Yeah. So you bring up a good point about the leadership style of Dr. Dementis and how he gets his brigands, behind him. So you can see that they captured some people along the way, and then he auditions them to see who, it's like a pit fight, right? They have to go after each other, and whoever emerges is going to be, elevated in his ranks, and so they get to survive, but they also have to be one of his assassins. And so it's like, basically kill or be killed, and and it's very desperate. I don't know why you don't think that they want to go plunder, the Oasis, though. I mean, it's
I think they want to. I think the thing would be, and the Peaches is kind of like, in my opinion, the goal in life. In other words, you don't ever want to control something where you starve it to death. You want to quote unquote control or guide something so you can benefit from it, and as well others can benefit from it. So, Dr. Dementis has to be completely aware of the other three warlords, and he doesn't have a fiefdom. So the idea is to go back and find this place and see what it has of value, and then be able to equally trade as a fourth to all three.
Right. I mean, he tried. So, and this is where I think Miller is probably trying to, make some metaphor between different countries.
Yeah.
The setup that Immortan Joe has is sustainable. They have resources. They do a lot of work. There's a lot of kind of, imagery that reminds you of the industrial age of enterprise, and you have these worker
steel and railroads.
Right, but they're also like built into this natural mountain. So, there is a little bit of nature's bounty and the waterfall and everything, but then there's a lot of this, like, gears. I mean, it just looks just like one of those 1920s posters, with the workers and the hammers and the gears and stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So I love it. And then here comes Dr. Dementis, and he's just a roving band of savage nomad bikers, a big, army of them. And he confronts them face to face and says, we are going to take over. And then there's this massive battle scene, which I love, which they're like, once it's on, you see that the Immortan Joe forces have considerable, defenses. And they have these hooks, and they just hook the motorcycles and the trucks and everything, and they just like lift them up into the air, right? And they're just like taking them out of the fray. And pretty soon, Dementis is on the run, and he's in retreat. And finally he goes to Gastown, where Immortan Joe's brother is the overlord, and he is able to penetrate Gastown. So that's a whole other battle, a whole other, clash of forces, right? On the run, his secondary, unit is able to go in and by disguising themselves with a gas rig, they gain entry like a Trojan horse. There's like tons of guys inside. The guy has to make a gut check decision whether to open the gates because it's one of their gas rigs, and they open the gate and everybody gets inside. And it was a bad move. It was a bad choice. And so the guy, the brother of Immortan Joe, who I didn't catch his name, he was actually an artist that was painting giant murals of the way life used to be, right? And so he had a concept of beauty and and visual art and everything that that maybe made him not the greatest war tactician. So he gets defeated by Dementus, and then he gets captured. Dementus then just like shows right up at the front door of Immortan Joe, and he says, I have your brother here. Let's strike a deal. They find out that Immortan Joe doesn't even care about the brother, and he's exterminated. But the one thing that Dementus has that's of interest is the girl, is Furiosa. And this is when they say like she's untouched girl, right? They're like that she was healthy. She's from an area where she was like well kept for, and that that is something that Immortan Joe wants more than anything. He wants to add her to his harem, and so they make a deal. At that point, I'm not sure why Immortan Joe doesn't try to get the upper hand. Like, you wonder, could they have defended themselves? They already killed the brother, right? So why didn't they just jump, his caravan right there and just take the girl? So it seems like they had Gastown as the, being held hostage, right? And Immortan Joe couldn't allow them to destroy Gastown, right? So they had an ace in the hole.
Well,
and so they make a
deal.
Right. Yeah. So they make a deal. And so, there's a great metaphor.
Well, he doesn't have a choice. He doesn't have a choice. Immortan Joe doesn't have a choice.
Because they control Gastown. But he didn't care about the brother. But he cut a deal in exchange for Furiosa, and they're going to let, so they say, okay, like whatever it is, 20%, 30%, they negotiate the numbers and, the oil production and the gas production. And so this deal, we fast forward, this deal is in place. Furiosa, well, she was about to get buggered by one of Immortan Joe's sons, and she made a fake wig. She cut off all of her hair and made a fake wig so she could escape his clutches. And he almost got caught with it. That was pretty good. But she finds a way to like sneak in, and she becomes one of the boys, so to speak, right? And she kind of like hides her gender and everything. And because she's small, she's lightweight. She's able to get up on the crane and do things that other people couldn't do. She was, she proved herself as a hard worker, and she moved her way up the ranks. Pretty interesting casting, I think, with what's her name? Anya Taylor-Joy, is that her name?
Yeah.
So why don't we spend a second? What do you think? Now she's an up and coming actress. She was in one of the X-Men spin-off movies called The New Mutants. She played like a superhero, whatever mutant thing. She was in a couple of other things before this, but very slight build and kind of petite. Clearly, the attributes that she brings, to the screen are these just haunting eyes that she has, and Miller really used that to great effect in the visuals. But they kind of made it part of the story where she was, lighter and, she wasn't going to overpower anybody. There wasn't too many scenes where she was in battle overpowering anybody. which is kind of weird because when you get to the Charlize Theron version of Fury Road, she is kind of like, average, more equipped, I guess, for hand-to-hand stuff. But in this, she's very slight. She uses her mind. She uses her wiles. She uses her, her skills shooting and being a good mechanic, to win her battles and to kind of like, move up. So really interesting the way that they portray her as one of the guys, because it's really weird. Like, you would think in this lawless, land and in this kind of like cruel society that she would be taken advantage of and exploited and abused and everything. But
so the thing I think you have to do is you've got to back away from the comic book approach to, let's say, storytelling or entertaining us. You're going down a rabbit hole where I can only suspect that in defense of trying to get funding for a movie, trying to get people motivated to make the movie, trying to get people at the end to come and see the movie, you've got to play with modern topics, let's just say. But more importantly, you want to be able to keep telling a story that you started telling back in 1997. And the hero's journey, being very, very, very much a part of it. So I think the tougher part of what you're trying to gather out of it is, I find Furiosa not a fighter. I find her to be a thinker. And I think, and this is all me, this is, yes. So the metaphor comes down to, by a lover, somebody who ends up loving her and she loves him in return, which love is found even in the future. See, I think the mistake we make in comic book fantasy type post-apocalyptic things is we hyperbolicize things to a point where it's so ridiculous that no reality can seep in, which is great. It's not a criticism. It's just the way we do it. But if you're going to do something that's going to meet the masses and the mass appeal, you're going to want to creep things in that subjectively, especially for younger people, younger audiences, are going to connect to. The fact that Furiosa, as a human surviving in this post-apocalyptic landscape, gets herself, because right now I'm just remembering the first time she's on the war rig and she's underneath it. That whole scene establishes her character. And I don't want to spoil a lot of it because, and I'll spoil this.
Is a spoiler.
I'll spoil this.
Yeah.
I understand. But I don't want to spend all my time describing scenes where people should just have to go and see this movie. But there's a point, and this is a very social thing. And it, if you want to survive in this society, opportunity is always going to peek its head, and it's up to you to make the choice on whether you're going to engage it as an opportunity. It's going to be dangerous. It's going to make you look like a fool, possibly. You could fail and die. You know what I mean? Like, these are all hyperbolic movie level things. But she was just making her way out of Wartown or whatever it was, Watertown, whatever Motor Joe ran.
Oil. Oh, yeah.
And
yeah,
I don't even know what that one was called. But anyway, she ends up being placed in a situation by her own accord where then an opportunity comes and she fits herself into it. And that is where everything from then on becomes Furiosa. Before then, she's just silly little girl or silly little person, like a little mouse trying to survive off of other people's scraps. Now she's going to have to become something substantial. And that substantial is she becomes the driver, which obviously through the movie you realize is a popular job But I don't even know what else in our society. It would be like trying to fly a rocket to the moon with a propeller plane. You know what I mean? Like an Icarus, because you gotta fight off of all these things, all these other people that, like Dr. Dementis, who want your resources, but who wants to control those resources. So because the other thing I thought was really super interesting is the very, very little amount of explosives and guns used in attacking a war rig, because you wanted to demobilize them. You didn't want to destroy them. You wanted to stop it, eliminate all the crew, and then take whatever the resource is. But the point that if the truck's going to Bullet Town or Gasoline Town or whatever it is like that, he's probably shipping water to them as currency to purchase bullets or gasoline. You know what I mean? So there's still something going on. So if you get into that chain,
they show cabbages.
Yeah. Cabbages. That was what it was. It was produce. So once again, I don't agree. That there's a fail in Furiosa not being a little bit more, let's say, bulky in her character. I think it's really super cool. She, losing the arm, manufacturing something that was more like a tool instead of fitting it to be more like an arm, and then continually pushing herself, obviously, when she's in Bullet Town. That whole thing is just off the rails and proves her value as a driver, but doesn't come back with the war rig. So
right. Well, she's a trusted lieutenant, and she's trained by this ace driver guy who sees her potential. It ends up being a big deal. Her driving skills. When she takes off after Dementis, you could really see the sharp contrast in his size. He's really built, muscular bodybuilder guy, and she's so slight, but she has him, chained up, and
David and Goliath,
and it right, and and I've heard a lot of complaints from kind of women. I don't know if it's feminists or whatever, but there's a big complaint about how fake and superficial a lot of these female heroines are who overpower these big guys, and how unrealistic it is. Women heroes should be using their savvy and their femininity sometimes,
feminine charms,
and other attributes. Right. And well, but or maybe it's just persistence. I mean, there's a lot of female characters that endure a lot of suffering, right? And this one, it's a little bit trite to see that the Furiosa character is bathed in fire when she witnesses the torturous execution of her mother, by Dementis, and he's really just a psychotic, sadistic, guy that just wants to make these killings epic for whatever reason, and that she's seen it all. She it toughens her up, and she becomes resolute. She works her way up as kind of like a mechanic in the Immortan Joe's Citadel, and then when they're making this big run with the war rig, she hides a motorcycle underneath the chassis, and she's hiding out, stowing away. They even call it the stowaway. They call that sequence the stowaway, and she's just trying to get free so that she can find her home. She never forgets her home. She wants to make it back to her home, and
I think that's one of the coolest. That's another cool part is she tattoos the stars on her arm, right. And it's to constantly remind her over the years of what direction she needs to go based on the stars, which is timeless. We've been doing that since we were apes. and she loses that map.
Right.
It's
Right.
so fucking cool, man. It's so
Right. And then she gets, and so it also shows, this is an interesting thing that we have to think about for our series is that knowledge becomes a commodity, and they have that character of the guy with all the tattoos all over his body,
Oh
that
yeah.
has, he's like the walking Wikipedia, right?
Oh, what
And
was his
every
name? He had
time
a
they don't know,
Mr. History,
every
Mr. History, I think it was, or something like that.
right, and they don't know, where, they don't know where, what things are, what things mean, and they need to, when they come across new people, understand that, he's kind of like the translator, the communicator. But yeah, lessons from the there's some interesting characters there, and I think what I really took away was, it's a metaphor between the way that we're treating people, that people treat each other today. Did you catch that part where Dementus is offering the war boys a better deal than they're getting from Immortan Joe? I mean, they're all basically slaves, right? And but they work and they have a sustainable, environment, right? But he's
Once
saying,
again, the way I'm sorry,
I'll
but the
cut.
way you use the terms, the way you, go ahead though, but the way you use those terms is if you think there's a choice. There's no choice in that world. There's no choice. The choice would only be if I'm given 2 pounds of food a day, rations, which just sustains me, and somebody else ends up giving me 2.5, pounds of rations. 9 times out of 10, the person's going to go take 2.5 pounds of rations. There's no other, because it's just more sustainable nutrition or value of food of just being able to live in this world. So it's not,
Right,
there's nothing else to be.
Yeah, but the key there is not the fact that he's offering them more food. The key there is that he's a a rogue, a charlatan. I mean, why would anybody trust that he was going to keep his word if he's going to be taking this citadel by force? Why would anybody believe that? Right. And it reminds you of that's what it reminded me directly of our current political, landscape, where people coming in and making promises that they just want to get power. They don't even know if they can fulfill them. How is this guy going to give double the food to everybody there? Give me a break. I mean, it sounded ridiculous when he said it.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's. I would take the chance, though. That's the point. Back being set in a position where you have to care for you, number one, or maybe even a family, but you never really see the family structure other than Immortan Joe's 2 sons and his wives, and the milk mothers. But I think it's a tough thing to do. But it's something that automatically does happen when we want to apply reality to fantasy in a movie that's trying to kind of kick something to us, a message, and I think it does an excellent job, even to the point of awesome job of that. And I think the fact that Furiosa is not sexualized as a heroine is super cool. But there is obviously fetishes that have come along, and even the comic book world of, a one-armed or armless, women
Prosthetic,
with black ball head, black ball, you know what I mean? Just drawing her in a way where that's sexy, and it's really talking about her as a powerful human being. That's overcoming by device, this shit place we call Earth, reality, and society. You know what I mean? Which is never going to bend to your will, whoever you are with whatever will you have. It's not happening.
Yeah. So yeah, so interesting, great movie. Interesting, not completely original in some of the, like the hero's tale, not completely original. The the revenge idea, not completely original. The traumatization, but so much value there. So the original thing with the Mad Max series is the crazy vehicles, the chases, the desperation of the wasteland and the landscape. They keep coming up with these great, creative twists on ways that these vehicles fight in the middle of the road, going, breakneck speeds. I love all that. I mean, that's really the signature. I mean, people complain there wasn't enough of that in the Thunderdome, but there was plenty of it in Fury Road. There was plenty of it here. You got the casting was very interesting. What do you think about Praetorian Jack, the commander of the War Rig? He wasn't like the most dashing guy, as a love interest. But he just looked real. I mean, he just looked very realistic, And,
it's funny.
Yeah.
So, you have a copy of Crumb Collected, my artist proof, which we'll be talking about it. The day before, I think I was even putting it together to get out shipped. I can't remember, but no. I was finishing the cover. Let me grab the cover. So the cover here, you can't see it because I covered it up, but I was finishing the cover to my version. There'll be 6 versions with Virgin covers, 5 other Virgin covers for this. The way my liquid mask went on her face, and then I put my graphite on here, it ended up looking like she had a scarred lip, like a cleft lip.
Right.
And that night, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. And I kept thinking to myself, I was like, you know what? Wouldn't it be great if I gave Lala, with Crom's sister, that kind of cut lip, right? And so I just left it in the back of my mind because I hadn't put the book out to print yet for the artist proof, which would have meant that I would have to really go back and edit not only my story, but I would have to edit the original stories to put this little scar in her lip that would have given her an imperfection, which is what I really love. When I saw him as the driver,
the cleft lip,
I said, I got to do it now. But
funny.
then 24 hours, I slept on it that night. I got up the next morning, I looked at the drawing, and I just finished it. I was like, I don't have a lot of time. But I do want to bring it up when we do have our time to sit down and talk about, my edits that would possibly be needed before I go to the final for Crom Collected. But I think that was a win for me. That was an element that drew me into him. And I like that kind of stuff. I like small pieces of imperfection.
He was an interesting character. An actor we haven't seen before. Remind me of Stacy Keach. Remember him?
Yes.
Right. Remind you of Stacy Keach. So interesting. You know who I thought was really well cast was the young Furiosa.
Yeah.
Right. Didn't it seem like it was a great match with Anya Taylor-Joy?
Yes.
So her name was Ayla Brown. She was Furiosa as a child and teen, and then at some point they just switch over to Anya Taylor-Joy. Chris Hemsworth was pretty good. I
didn't care for him. You could have replaced him with any kind of character. I didn't care for him.
Right. Well, he's trying to fill the shoes of Humongous, and you know what I think? I think Humongous was more built. Humongous was some kind of crazy bodybuilder guy.
Yeah.
Right. And Chris Hemsworth, as big as he is, he wasn't humongous. I don't think it filled those shoes. and he's a massive dude. He's got big arms, big everything, right? But
Well, I
he's
also
too good
heard.
looking.
Yeah, I also heard the Lord Humongous before the fall, the apocalyptic fall, was a math teacher. He was a high
Really?
school math teacher. So I've
Walk
heard this
away.
as like a
Just walk
I've heard
away.
this thing, and the reason he wears the mask but no other articles of clothing was because of the radiation poisoning. He had
Right.
disfiguration on his face, but your skin can get really really sensitive, and he didn't want to feel the clothes rubbing up against his body. So there is a whole, like, I don't know if that's from George Miller or anything associated with that, but I had heard or read that years ago about who was the Lord Humongous. And
Yeah.
so once again you're dealing with a character that was something before it was this, but now where we're at with the
Humongous was
Fury
great
Road.
because his bursting muscles were just like the ultimate embodiment of just
Yeah,
raw brute strength. His
yeah.
mask means he was a faceless tyrant. He was just, unknown. It doesn't matter. He's just like, a guy, but he led this incredible, army of like motorcycle guys. And then you had some of the other like lieutenants who are really interesting, right? And just a great. I mean, so you're trying to fill big shoes, and Chris Hemsworth is, he's $1 million actor. He's probably getting 10 million a film, maybe 20 million a film nowadays. So that's really the big name there. Anya Taylor-Joy she's on the rise, but she's coming. She's on the way up. Chris Hemsworth is a big star. I mean, I don't know if you saw those movies on Netflix, the Extraction and Extraction 2, but Chris
Nope.
Hemsworth is like, the biggest Marvel guy, and he's also the biggest action star of the day. So they actually had to put an ugly nose on him because he's too good looking, right? Um yeah, Praetorian Jack was played by Tom Burke, who was a nobody, and Morton Joe was played by this guy Lackley Lockie Holm. Believe it or not, Immortan Joe died. The guy that played
Yeah, I
Immortan Joe in the
think this is
previous,
his son.
no, it's a different name, but
Oh, okay.
but they had to replace him, the old Immortan Joe, because the actor died.
Yeah,
Um, and it's been a while. Fury Road came out, what was it, 7-8 years ago, something like that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. You had the organic mechanic, one of Dementis's physicians. He played a minor role. Furiosa's mother, Charlize Fraser, Mr. Norton, a deformed survivor. Yeah, the other people were more like bit parts. Um, Interesting stuff. Zoe Kravitz appears in the credits. Um, that's Lenny Kravitz's daughter, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so this just really really good prequel. Instead of doing a sequel, I wonder now if they're going to do if they're working on something else.
I think unfortunately,
They're
this
jumping
is a part
around.
of where, well, I think what unfortunately is going to happen is, we're going to get ostracized for who we are as aging out. I think they have successfully turned our Mad Max into a new Mad Max franchise. And I
Yeah,
think they're just going to keep building around it like Star Wars. And it will be very, very interesting because you have so much, like the War Boys themselves. I think you could do a whole entire movie on, because I think the
sure.
the only the only success Star Wars as a franchise has right now is it's got God plus money to be able to do and figure things out. Everything from the Mandalorian to Rogue One to blah 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 blah
Yeah,
blah. And based on
to the
its highs
animation.
and lows, it just needs to keep making things come into field of vision for us to then appropriately watch and pay for the next one, or become fans of it. But our aging out, I'm establishing me as aging out of Mad Max, unless it can really go left more. No, I don't want to say it that way. Can really go into the stratosphere, like basically dig deeper into what it means to be without and having to survive, because that's really all it's about. It's just a survival film. It just so happens to be a post-apocalyptic.
There's that also building. I think that the maker space aspect of it. They're building out of remnants. They're building new things. They're kind of like synthesizing new vehicles. There's kind of like the cool aspect where they're so stripped down to their basic elements. Like you could even see Furiosa's mom is doing like a tire change, on an axle, right, in one of the scenes. They've always been that. If you remember the Whirly Bird, right, it was like really, really stripped down.
So I question whether it's going to have any value for me, because it seems to be all played out. And I just don't want, like I said, Chris Hemsworth's character is a complete replaceable character, like interchangeable character. But I think he was valueless. And my fear is that that's the road they're going to go down, is you're going to have people that are worth probably more than they're valued at, in their own acting abilities or what they bring to character development. Populating these movies, because that's what I find the Star Wars thing is all about. I just don't find there is nothing other than Rogue One, because there's nobody of value in it. Like there's no names in Rogue One. I can't remember anybody that was like, oh wow, Mark Hamill's in that, or Harrison Ford. Right. There's nobody, and it's a very well crafted story that preempts to something that engaged me within a matter of minutes the first time I saw Star Wars. So it was a success there. But, once again, aging out and letting the next generation consume it and then propagate it and prop it up and move it into its next space. All the world of luck to you. The world of luck to you. But I'm not looking forward to another Mad Max. I'll see how I feel when I get there, but I give it 2 thumbs up. And 3 pens, this was an interesting, an interesting installment. They're going for the prequel. They might be expanding the world. You don't know. George Miller's probably, nice and rich 81. Now. He's 81, right? And I don't know what the box. Yeah, so he might sell the rights, or he might have family that wants to pick up the baton. But when I was in the theater. It was interesting. I saw it on the opening weekend. I think I saw it. No, yeah, because it was a holiday on the Monday, so I saw it on the Sunday night before the holiday, and fucking empty. The theater was empty, and when the movie was over, my brother and I were leaving, and I told the usher, who's coming in to clean up all the popcorn and everything. I told him, "Great movie." And he goes to me, I can't believe there aren't more people here, because these guys know movies too. Why?
And
you know why?
Why?
They're waiting for it to stream.
Right. People don't go to the movies as much anymore. Yep. That's one thing. Yep. But I got to tell you, too, when I was watching the previews, because you see this new Star Wars thing they have now called The Acolyte. I don't even know if it's a movie or a stream or whatever. They're trying to bring people to the Disney.
Don't care.
The other thing is everything is a franchise now. I mean, I saw, we spoke about Dungeons and Dragons. All right, they're off and running. They're a franchise. We spoke about, Harry Potter. Now there are plays. Now there's when I was at Universal, there's a whole theme park there. And it was insane. I don't know if I told you about this, but my daughter wanted to go to Universal, and we go to the Harry Potter section in Universal, Orlando. I get in there and I can't believe my freaking eyes and ears. There's this little hideaway world where you're in these, like, walking around like a couple, like maybe like 3 or 4 blocks of Harry Potter world. And inside all the stores, they're selling these wands, a magic wand, and there's
Yeah,
these little boxes. Have you seen this phenomenon?
$35.
How
I
much
don't know
are
if you
they?
call it.
How
I
much
don't
are
know. I
they?
mean,
It
I
was
know anything you buy.
ridiculous. So
Yeah,
the stores are really selling them with real cash registers, and
yeah,
people are buying them, a stupid piece of plastic, wood, whatever, in a little thing, and they're collecting them, and they're buying them. And then, they had to get, oh, there's the butter mead, whatever. So we have to get a drink of that. And then, $9 there, and then this and that. And they're just cashing in on these Harry Potter fans, selling them
yep,
magic wands. Magic wands.
yep,
And the
yep.
age range was everywhere from like 5 years old to 50, and everything in between. And people were dressing up in, robes and everything to go there. I saw people at the entrance that were all decked out, and with the funny hats and the wizards and everything. Oh my God.
Right.
So everything's a franchise. And you get to, so we're watching these previews, Dune is a franchise, and, and then we see the new movie, Lord of the Rings is coming out now,
Yep.
a brand new movie.
Yep.
So whoever owns the Tolkien rights is now, developing scripts now using, Legolas and, and hobbits and everything to have new adventure, and it's like the preview, forged in the, in the days of man and the elves and the dwarves below and all that. And then it's like, a new Lord of the Rings saga emerges. And I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I want to see that. It's just
Yeah, I
like,
could care less.
so we're really in this age of, right, because like, to me, I saw the Peter Jackson trilogy. I saw one of the movies again, and I don't think it held up, to now. That was like what, 25 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hey,
So I don't know.
we're over an hour. We always like to keep these around 45 minutes, which are bite size. I got a lot done here on the page. We did, I feel, break down Furiosa, and overall, though, you are leading into, the biggest question right now is just what are we going to be stuck with, and that's my feeling when it comes to these franchise. I feel like it's like a prison for creativity. It's like it has to be adjacent to Star Wars,
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings,
High ends.
Game of Thrones, or no, even your own work. Your own. You have to be adjacent to a franchise in order to get eyes appropriately moving in. But if you don't carry enough weight and similarity, you're screwed. So
Right.
I just want to prop up. I want to prop up the fact that Turbo Pit Fighter teaser number 2 is heading to the printer this week, which by the time this video gets posted, this thing will be live and going out to creators in our indie exchange. You have you have an art proof of my Crom Collected Revised Edition 2024. This is still available. I'll put a link down. This is what I'm referring to as my sketchbook. I started back in 2018, which is what led me into that. But, other than that, I think one of the best things you and I have going right now is Turbo. I think just even with the post-apocalyptics, but your imagination when it comes to science, Jake, is so engaging. And I'm just looking forward to continuing being with you and inking and supporting the story and shaping this and creating an excellent retirement package for us. But that's all I got. Let's let these people get back to reading comics, making them if they choose.
Right on. And on the outs, just check our other channels. We got Comics that Influence, where we do flip throughs, and we got the Creator Exchange, where we do interviews. So check out the rest of our page. The last thing, Did you see when they were dropping those spinning balls? I was laughing because we have an idea.
It's right, yeah.
We have an idea where they let out these like spiky balls as a defense, and they're just kind of like rumbling around the road and messing up the motorcycles behind them. But they had it where they just start twirling, right, and they're taking out cars and trucks and bikes and even like flying stuff. So our work is very, very influenced by the stuff we're talking about, and nothing could be a greater influence on me and everything that we're doing than the Road Warrior franchise. It's always going to live on. Even if they screw it up in the future, Road Warrior 2 is still my go-to. So, have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Furiosa! We've come too far. Furiosa! They took Furiosa!
As a child, my world was forever changed. My mother was magnificent. And he took it all from me.
Who do we have here?
She's from a place of abundance.
This is our destiny.
My childhood, my mother, I want them back. I want them back!
Whatever you have to do, however long it takes, promise you'll find your way home. Protect the green place.
It's time to take what's rightfully ours. Ready, steady, go! Where are you going? So full of hope. There is no hope.
If you find him, he's mine.
There will always be war, but to get home, Furiosa fought the world.